It's a great time to come out and be in nature, be with your friends, and get the theme this year is be refreshed. So the messages are going to be about how do we get refreshed, and our goal is when you leave refreshed. You might have some mosquito bites, but you'll be refreshed too. And kids are free. If you're an adult, you pay. But if you can't afford that, if you can't afford to go and you want to go, please let me know or Terry and Kathy, because we want as many people to go as possible. And if money is stopping you, please let us know. We want to get you there. So last Sunday, David gave the sermon, and if he did not tell us that was his first sermon, I don't think any of us would have guessed that was his first time preaching. He did fantastic. And if you are here today and you were not here last Sunday, I encourage you to go to Facebook or YouTube and watch it. It was just a really powerful message about the wheat and the tares, and so go watch it. You'll be blessed. Also, I was out of town on the very last, right after VBS ended, so I don't know if people, I don't remember honoring the people that volunteered, so I want to make sure that happens right now. If you volunteered at VBS, Vacation Bible School, you helped out. It doesn't matter if it was for 1 hour, 1 day, or the full week. Would you stand up so we can honor you? Okay. And I know you'll have to tell your wife, Jo Navadine. Yeah. There was a few people in the first service, too, that helped out, and we honored them. And so in this picture, which was taken by Jeanette, who isn't here today, she took this and sent it to me when I was out of town. I was in Texas at the time. And she said that the kids are having a blast. I know my kids had a blast, so everyone who volunteered, you did a great job. They had fun in the crafts and bringing them home and sharing what they learned. But I have this image, and if I put it in Keynote, I am allowed to just with one click delete the background, so only the people are there. So that's what I did. I just deleted the background, and then outlined them real easily. Okay. But sometimes when you delete the background, it doesn't delete everything perfectly. So if you notice, Keisha's leg just gets cut out, and now her foot is over here. And it looks like Janice is showing us her new high heels, right? Doesn't it look like Janice is showing her new... When I was making this PowerPoint, I saw that, I just laughed. I was by myself. Only me and the Lord were there, and I was just laughing to myself. I was like, I'm going to share that with you because that looks hilarious. All right, and Janice was here in the first service. She thought it was hilarious too. So, all right.
Okay, well, let's hear it. Treat yourself a round of saucing. No. That's not it. Over to Katina.
I would like to solve.
Okay.
Give yourself a round of applause.
Yeah, that's it.
That was not a skit on SNL or anything like that. That happened in real life. The guy thought he was ready to solve the problem, or solve the puzzle, and he was totally off. Totally off. Today we are starting a series, called Let God Fill in the Blanks. This is part 1, and it's inspired by a conversation I had over a week ago, 2 weeks ago actually, after I gave a sermon talking about Paul's conversion. He's the chief of sinners, and God chose him for a reason, because if he can save the worst of the worst, it gives hope for the worst of the worst. In every generation, they hear that, if Paul could be saved, then I can be saved. Well, after that message, and one of the other points in the message was Paul went as far as he could in hating Christ and his followers, assuming he was right. So Connie comes up to me after the message and she says, Paul thought he was right. Paul thought he was right. You need to give a sermon about that. She said, how many people think that they're doing what God wants and they're actually very far from God's will and God's heart? I was like, that is really a good point. So I meditated on it, and these are some of the thoughts that came to my mind when I thought about making assumptions, right? Why do we do it? Really, why do we do it? That's one that came to mind. Then another one was, what's so bad about it? What's so bad about making assumptions? And then the third one is, what's the biblical antidote? And today in part one, we're going to cover these two questions, and next week we're going to dive into the biblical antidote. So let's just think, off the top of your head, why do you think people make assumptions? Yes?
Their own personal biases.
Okay, they have their own personal biases. Yeah. Why else? Yes, Connie. They were taught to make assumptions. They're learning from other people. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, first impressions. Mm-hmm. David?
It is very easy to do.
It is very easy to do, yes. Yeah, no mental power. Veronica?
They didn't have all the information.
We don't have all the information? Yeah. Jeanette? It makes a story complete. Yeah. Okay. Beth? They want to be right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, Dean? It makes us more comfortable. All right. Yeah. Keisha?
All the things that happen to us in our life, we think that if we see those same things happening, then it means the same thing. So it's our understanding, because of our own experience,
Yeah.
leads us to believe certain things about other people's experiences.
Right. Right. All right. Man, I wish I had you mic'd up for that, because I'm not going to be able to repeat everything you said the way you said it. All right. Well, this guy, he thinks he can solve the puzzle. He thinks he has enough pieces, right, to solve the puzzle. So he says, I'd like to solve the puzzle. And what's so funny is that kind of is, in a nutshell, the human condition. We want to solve the puzzle. We want to fill in the blanks. And this is something that even the devil, like way back in the very beginning, comes to Adam and Eve and says, God's keeping some knowledge from you. Don't you want to be more like him? If you eat from this tree, you will gain the knowledge of good and evil. And they felt this need of, I want to fill in the gap. I don't, now I feel like I'm missing something and I want to fill that in. So it's a very carnal part of us to want to fill in the gaps. Now, some things we want to know more information, and it's good things that we want to know about, but then there's things that we want to know about that is none of our business, right? There are magazines that have built empires off of gossip. We got to know what the celebrities are up to, and why did they get divorced, and who's lying to who, and what's going on here. Not too long ago, I won't bring up, never mind. Why do people make assumptions? One, it is part of our human nature. Our carnal flesh just wants we want to know what we don't know. It takes time and effort to find out the truth. It takes time and effort to find out the truth. It is, like David said earlier, it's so easy to do. It's just so easy. Just jump to the conclusion. Just make an analysis instead of actually taking time to go and find out the truth, to go and talk to the person. What did you really say? And what did you really mean when you said that? It's much easier to just trust someone else taking a little soundbite and saying, look what they said, and this is what they meant, right? And then not verifying, not figuring out, is that actually what they said? And is that what they really meant when they said that? We want to know now. And the truth is, sometimes it takes a long time to find the truth. And so it is just much easier to jump to conclusions, to just go ahead and make assumptions. And then this one is so easy for us to fall into. It's ignorance of our lack of knowledge. We think we have all the puzzle pieces to say what the picture is, but then we find out later, oh, wait, whoa, there's a lot of puzzle pieces we didn't actually have. And if we had those, we would actually conclude differently. So this guy, he thinks he has enough puzzle pieces, but he doesn't, right? He doesn't actually solve the problem. Even though he thinks he has the puzzle in his mind, he doesn't actually solve it. What's so bad about making assumptions? Anything comes to the top of your head. What is so bad about making assumptions? Yes, Mike? You could be incorrect about your assumptions. Yes. What else? Keisha? You can offend someone. You've made a wrong assumption, and now you're offending someone. You've judged them inaccurately. Serena? You're judging them before you know them. Yeah, very good. Connie? You can hurt someone. You cause them to go to prison or be killed because you've jumped to the wrong assumptions and conclusions. Okay, you're playing God. Yeah. All right, since you guys got all my answers, we're going to end early today. I need to talk to you afterwards. No, chicken. All right, something that Melissa and I realized while driving is that every single time we assumed who the crazy driver was, we were wrong. I'm like, that guy. And then he gets closer, and it's not a he, it's a she. Or, oh, I bet you there's an old lady driving that. And then it's a young person. All right? Oh, I bet it's a new driver driving that. It's an older person. Like, we are wrong every single time. It's like, man, that has to be, I don't know if it's male or female, but the worst human driver ever. And it turns out to be their dog. But seriously, every single time we make some kind of a, dude, that guy needs to learn to drive. And then it's the opposite. It's someone, like, every time. So we're not good at assumptions. What if I told you that just because I'm nauseous, it doesn't mean I'm pregnant? I have heard, stories of people in grocery stores, even at church, go up to people and say, so when's the due date? And they're not pregnant. There's an assumption made, right? Like, oh, I think they're pregnant. Okay, you think that? Keep it to yourself. Because if they're not pregnant and you're asking when the due date is, you have just wrecked their day or possibly their week or their month, all right? But assumptions get made all the time, and we want to be careful because we really can hurt people, and like Connie was saying. All right, so I have made the mistake of looking at my news app, seeing a headline, and assuming what the article says, sending it to Melissa. Now, this only has happened like a couple times, okay? I don't do this like hardly ever, but there has been a couple times I've sent it to my wife thinking I know what the article is going to say. Later on, I bring it up, and I'm like, what'd you think of the article and how blah, blah, blah? And she's like, that's not what the article said. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should read that. There's been times when I have been watching a TikTok, and it's so hilarious. I'm halfway through, and I'm already convinced I need to share this with Joshua. So I send it to him, and then I watch the remaining half, and the guy starts swearing, and all sorts of crazy stuff happens, and I'm like, Joshua, I sent that to you before I watched the full video. I am sorry. I did not know it was going to go there. Sometimes we can assume things, and it puts us in some awkward situations. In John chapter 9, verse 1, as Jesus, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? What are the disciples doing right now? They are making some assumptions. They've concluded that there's really only two possibilities. This blind person is suffering because either A, he has sinned, or B, because his parents have sinned. Put yourself in the blind man's position. Can you imagine hearing that conversation? How would you feel if you heard Jesus' disciples saying, so did he sin, or was it his parents who sinned that caused him to be blind? Just imagine being the blind man hearing that conversation. How would you feel? Sad, okay. Angry. Judge. Yeah. They didn't think that there's option 3, right? Option C, which is what does Christ say? Is there actually more that could be going on than that? And so, like we said earlier, one of the problems of making assumptions is that if we make the wrong assumptions, it often leads to wrong judgments. And who in here loves to be judged? We do not like being judged by people, right? But with wrong assumptions, we end up judging people wrongly, and it hurts. It hurts. It can also cause unnecessary pain. So I remember years ago, as about 10 years ago, I was preaching, and as I was preaching, I was looking out, and I saw this, one of our members, who wasn't here anymore, but one of our members was just making all sorts of crazy faces while I was preaching, and I'm like, man, she is like not liking this message. And then later I found out that she has facial Tourette's. It's where you make a whole bunch of faces and it's out of your control. You just automatically start making all sorts of faces. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. And so moving forward, when I preached and I saw her making those faces, it didn't trip me up like it did the first time I saw it. Fast forward 5 years, so now 5 years ago, I was preaching and one of our members was sitting right back there and just kind of wiggling in the chair and had this face like he was upset. And I'm like, man, what is he upset about? Like, what am I saying that is upsetting him so much that he's just like, wiggle? And then he gets up and he just paces in the back. And I'm like, what is going on? And then right when service ends, he jets out and he takes off. And I'm like, man, what did I say? And I'm thinking, and it's causing I'm like, do I need to confront him? What's going on? And then he texts me later on saying that he had a toothache that was bothering so bad that he had to go. And I was like, oh, right? So we can make, based on what we see with our eyes, we can then jump to some conclusions that cause us some pain. And then we find out later, oh, I totally misjudged that whole circumstance. Just a week ago when I was doing the last watercolor workshop, there was a lady who, by just looking at her, I could tell she is not enjoying the workshop. And as I'm thinking that, helping out my son who was in the workshop, I'm helping him out, and the lady's sitting right there, and I'm like, man, she is not enjoying that. As I'm thinking that, she goes, this is fantastic. I'm like, oh my goodness, in my head, I started thinking, I'm so glad you said that because I thought, you need to tell your face that, like, that's not what's being communicated to me. So what's the problem of making assumptions? When we make assumptions, especially when they're wrong, we're basically building on a lie. And so we can misjudge someone and be like, oh, I know what they're up to. And then we start behaving now as though that is truth. So we might treat them not so nice because we've made some bad conclusions about what they're up to. And so now we're treating them and we're giving off a vibe that's not the love of Christ. It's more of the judgment of and suspicion and the accusations of the devil. The very opposite vibe. It is the devil who goes around accusing people. That's one of his main jobs he loves doing is accusing people. Job doesn't really love you, God. He doesn't really love you. If you took away this, this, and this, you'll see. That's accusations, right? So when we jump to the wrong conclusions, we are now building this house of cards that once the truth comes out, bam, everything we built on that lie comes crumbling down. Everything built on that lie, and the truth always catches up to the lie. So eventually when the truth comes out, we're like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for treating you like that. I am so sorry. Job's friends assumed his suffering was punishment, but God says, you have not spoken the truth about me as my servant Job has. And at the end of the book of Job, God just clearly says, Job, I am angry at your friends. I am angry. Like, God got really mad at Job's friends. But you know what I love about the ending of the book of Job? Is that even in God's anger, get this, if you want to know the character of God and his anger, get this. Even in his anger, when he says, I am angry at your friends, Job, God is already trying to fix the relationship. He goes, Job, I want you to pray for your friends, have them give a sacrifice so that we're all good. Isn't that good? That God, even in his anger, is like, how can I fix this? That's a good father. A bad father is so much in his emotions, all he wants to do is stop whatever is causing him pain, and he doesn't care how much it hurts. A good father goes, how can I fix this for the well-being of everyone in the future? He's looking for our best interest in mind. He's not looking to just try to solve something in the moment. He's actually doing character development. So he goes, Job, I want you to pray for your friends, and I want you to offer sacrifices so that we're all on the same page again. That's a good father. Even in his anger, that is what he's up to. In his anger, he's up to grace. Moses is like, please, let me just go over there to the promised land before I die. God goes, no. And it sounds so harsh, so cruel. But in God's mind, he's like, the physical promised land isn't as good as where I'm going to take you, Moses. The next time we see Moses after he dies is on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus and Elijah. How cool. And in the promised land. How cool is that? Please, let me just go over there. God, I've been working all my life to go over to the promised land. Can I just go there? No, this is where your story ends. Sounds so cruel. But when Moses opens his eyes, or at least the next time we see him with his eyes open, he is in the presence of Jesus and Elijah and in the promised land talking to the Messiah, the promised one. Like, how cool is that? God, even in his anger, is trying to figure out how to bring people back, how to be a blessing. So one of the problems of making assumptions like Job's friends is we can find ourselves in hot water with God. It's something that irritates him. He's like, you should not be judging them like that. Jesus said it this way. When Jesus' own disciples were being accused of working on the Sabbath, remember they were plucking the wheat and eating it on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees saw it, and they're like, why are your disciples working? Something Jesus says that's very, very powerful. He says, if you had known, if you really knew what was going on, you would not have condemned the innocent. And that's one of the problems of making assumptions. It causes us to condemn people that actually are innocent and don't deserve that condemnation. James chapter 4, verse 11 and 12, the brother of Jesus points out another problem with making assumptions. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister or judges them speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you are not keeping it. That is a powerful, crazy statement. When we are actively judging others for not keeping the law, we aren't keeping the law. We're hypocrites. And while we're trying to judge them, we're actually not living up to the law either. So it's like, ooh, okay. There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. But you, who are you to judge your neighbor? So there's this picture of the judgment seat. You can imagine a gavel, and it's God's seat. And there's only one seat, and it's God's. No one deserves to go and sit in it. But when we judge our brother and sister, it's like we've shoved God off, and now we're sitting in the chair. But there is only one lawgiver. There is only one who can save and destroy. Let him do his job. This goes right along with what David said last Sunday, the wheat and the tare. Should we go over and take out, who we think don't belong? Should we just pluck them out because we think we know? What's the answer? No. Because you might not actually know. You think you know who's in, and you think you know who's out. You don't know. Only God knows. That is such a powerful truth. Only God truly knows our hearts. Only God knows who truly has a relationship with him. So it is not our job to go and be like, I think you're not a wheat, so I'm going to pluck you out. That's not our job. Let God do his work. What's so bad about making assumptions? There's 40,701 reasons in a passage in the Old Testament as to why we should not make assumptions. Okay? It's in the Old Testament, and it's about David, who sent ambassadors to offer condolences to Hanun, king of Ammon, because his father had died. And his father had given grace to David, and so he wanted to comfort the son. Hanun assumed they were spies, not friends. So David sent this delegation, these ambassadors, some of David's men to them to comfort and bring an encouraging message. But Hanun assumed they were spies, not friends, acting on this suspicion. So not only does he make this mental jump and filled in the gaps without actually knowing the truth. Oh, they're spies. They're up to no good. He not only makes the jump, but then he behaves as though his suspicion is absolutely truth. So, acting on this suspicion, he humiliated them. And if you've never read the story, you can go read it. It's 2 Samuel chapter 10. And when it talks about humiliated them, they were humiliated. Which led to war between Israel and Ammon. When David was told of this, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, and went to Helam. The Arameans formed their battle lines to meet David and fought against him. But they fled before Israel, and David killed 700 of their charioteers and 40,000 of their foot soldiers. He also struck down Shabak, the commander of their army, and he died there. 40,701 people died because one guy did not look into the matter. He just made an assumption and then acted on that assumption, and 40,701 people died. So assumptions is something that, it's a big deal. We read this earlier, John 9, as Jesus, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" We asked, what are they doing? They're making assumptions. Who is making assumptions in this context? This is not a trick question. Who's making assumptions? The disciples. Followers of Jesus can easily do this. Even after this series is over, one of the things that will probably happen is we're just going to be more aware that we're doing it. More awakened to, oh, wow, I was assuming things. The more you realize you assume things, the more you're like, yikes, I gotta work on this. This is something that it's easy to do, and it's hard to not do. But Jesus' own disciples were jumping to conclusions. They were acting on their assumptions. Jesus said this, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him." One of the things that they're doing that I think is amazing is that even though they were guilty of making assumptions, who were they still talking to about it? Jesus. One of the best things you and I can do is continue to talk to Jesus. Jesus, what do you say? I have my opinions and my suspicions, but what do you actually say? I've been fishing all night. I don't think I'm going to catch anything now, but what do you say? Right? So they're talking to Jesus. Let God fill in the blanks. Part 2 is next week, and we're going to dive into the question, okay, but what is the biblical antidote? And we're going to look at a lot of really cool passages that show this is the antidote, okay? One of your homework assignments, if you choose to do it, is read Numbers chapter 14. Numbers, there's a book in the Bible called Numbers chapter 14, all right? It is a really cool chapter. A lot of things happen. If you do read it, think to yourself, are people assuming things? What are they assuming? What does God say? things like that. Just kind of be aware of all the assumptions made in Numbers chapter 14. And then if you have any stories that came to mind as you were listening to the sermon where you're like, oh, I remember when I made an assumption and it was totally off, send that story to me. I might put it in the sermon next week. Or maybe you thought of a time when someone assumed something about you and they found out that they were completely wrong. If you think it would bless the congregation, send it to me. I might be able to use it in the sermon next week. Right? We're going to stand and worship our Lord. If you need prayers or would like to be baptized, just meet me in the back. Let's stand and worship our Lord.